I'd like to call the Long Hill Township Board of Education meeting to order for November 6th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Long Hill Township Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on September 15th, 2022. Notices were posted on the bulletin board in the first floor entrance hall of the School District Administration Building, Gillette, New Jersey. Notices were filed with the Township Clerk, and notices were mailed to all persons who have requested individual notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Here.
Mr. DeJamos?
Here.
Mrs. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Here.
Mrs. McLennan?
Here.
Ms. Nyquist?
Here.
Ms. Rubelo? And Mrs. Case?
Here. Thank you. We are going to start with the swearing in. We have a new board member and are very excited to welcome Dr. Crystal Marr to our board, who is administering this process.
I can do it. I can do it. Hey, Crystal, come on up.
Usually we do it like right there, honestly.
That's center stage.
Yeah. Well, you're in the shot from the.
We're going to have you read that. All right. So just repeat it from here.
That I, Crystal Marr, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Crystal Marr, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God. That's it. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, so we have a full agenda this evening. We are going to start with a scintillating performance in terms of our annual financial report. So our audit, yes.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Brian Coe. I'm the manager on your account. I saw on the agenda that I got promoted, though, so I really liked that. John Mooney sends his regards this evening. He's the partner on your account. He's sick. He's homesick, so he regrets not being able to be here. But I'm perfectly capable of giving you the presentation for your audit. I'd like to start by thanking Robin and your team for doing such a great job and being so supportive while we're here. You really allow the process to get turned around really quick and get your audits back in a timely manner, and we really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
I'm just going to go over a couple budget numbers. It's on schedule B1 and B2 in the books that you have. It's probably about page 25 or so. That's where the B1 is the balance sheet and B2 is the income statement. So I'm just going to go over the fund balance for your general fund. So capital reserve is at almost $3 million. It went up $200,000 this year. Your maintenance reserve is at $960,000. Emergency reserve remained at $250,000. Your excess surplus is up to $330,000. That's to be used to balance your budget in the 24-25 school year. Unemployment compensation is $227,000. Encumbrances went down slightly to $337,000. And designated for subsequent year expenditures is $336,000, and that's what you're going to use to balance your budget in the current year that you're in, the 24 fiscal year. And then your unassigned fund balance is down to $721,000. That's because in the previous year, 2022 fiscal year, you had to use 4% for your maximum unassigned fund balance per the state of your total appropriations. And in 2023, you only were allowed to use 2% as your maximum. So that's why that went down 408,000, which really caused the increase in the capital reserve and the excess surplus there. That's where the money went up to those lines. So overall, you only were up $38,000, not to just say only, but there's a lot of big numbers, but that's the change overall. Is $38,000 is the increase in your fund balance from one year to the next. Does anybody have any questions on that so far?
Not yet.
Okay. So you don't have a capital projects fund. So there's no big over 1 year projects taking place as the time of the audit. Your debt service fund, the total debt of the district is $4.5 million, with the final maturity on your 2021 refunding bonds occurring in 2029, but the final maturity on 2014 bonds will occur this year in 2024. The bond refunding in 2022 equated to almost $615,000 in net present value savings of interest over the life of the issuance that matures in 2029. So you saved money from that refunding. Your debt percentage is 8.29%. That means that you can borrow up to $55 million. That's the maximum the state will allow. And you currently are using 8% of that. I'm not saying that you should go out and borrow, another $50 million. You can if you need to, though. And then in your milk service fund, everything was status quo. The fund balance went down $60 during the year, which is a nominal amount. So everything stayed pretty consistent. You still have over $19,000 in that milk fund. And for the second year in a row, we have no recommendations in the audit, which is wonderful. Yes. And again, I'd like to thank Robin and her staff for doing an outstanding job and keeping everything in order, and also for prioritizing us to an extent while we're there, and we really do appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions? All right, well, we're here all year round. If you have any questions, feel free to email us or call us or come on and stop by. We're here all year, not just during the audit. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, that is all good news, very positive, and we got an update at the Finance Committee meeting last week. Karen, did you want to share, you brought some celebratory items. Did you want to
Yes.
just mention?
Last year, we had 0 recommendations, and at that time, we had a king of audit land. And this year, we have a queen of audit land. So,
I thought you were talking about you and Matt.
and the
It
business
just-
office in general.
Yeah, just
You
so
know, they all
everybody knows,
worked on it.
it's not a one-man team. I mean, Dan is absolutely fabulous as a mentor, not to mention as a boss. Adele is here. Adele is the best I have ever worked with. She's not only kind, smart, and she is on the penny every single time. You couldn't do it without a wonderful staff. I had a great principal over in Chatham, and the one thing he used to always say is hire the smartest people you can find and then leave them alone to do their job. And I'm telling you, with Adele, and we had more last year, we have Natalia and Dom this year, we have got a fabulous, fabulous office of smart people that are the nicest people you want to meet. So it goes right along with this board. We fit right in. So thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Adele. Adele, I think that tiara would fit you, or the crown would fit you as well, so if you feel the need. Okay, wonderful. So the next presentation we have on the agenda is the HIB self-assessment for, if Ms. Backer.
Good evening. Okay, so the HIB grade self-assessment is an annual report where we use a rubric that is created by the state to assess the effectiveness of our procedures, trainings, and programs as they relate to our HIB law. The report is also a depiction of how well we as a district are doing to create and sustain our positive culture and climate, as well as prevent and reduce incidents of HIB. So the rubric is broken down into 8 core elements. They include, and I will go into more detail about all of them, but they include HIB programs, process, reporting, adhering to timelines and procedures, school culture and climate programs, activities, and staff training on our HIB law. The rating is 4 categories, 1 through 4, 1 being does not meet requirements and 4 being exceeds requirements. All 3 buildings have exceeded requirements in all of our core elements and received a score of 77 out of a possible 78. And the only place that we lost 1 point where we met the requirement but didn't necessarily exceed was providing training opportunities for the members of our school climate committees. So we'll definitely try to find opportunities for them to receive some training, and hopefully we can exceed the requirements in that area for next year. So I'll just go over briefly what the core elements are. Core elements 1 and 4 have to do with our HIB curriculum as it relates to our students, so programs and approaches and initiatives. And I feel we do a really excellent job collaboratively in all 3 schools with our Choose Love program, which is our social emotional learning program, and they have various monthly activities in the classroom. We do assemblies, and all of these activities are related to various social emotional learning development. We also have the Week of Respect, Peace in Our Schools Week, Red Ribbon Week, and all of those weeks have activities and lessons that the children participate in with the overall message of being kind citizens and respecting our peers, our community, and making healthy choices. We have monthly character education lessons that our guidance counselors go into the classrooms at Gillette and Millington. And at Central, our school counselor does them not monthly, but a few times a year. She'll go into either a gym class or an ELA block and do lessons that are age appropriate with our middle school students. At Gillette and Millington, we also have Tiger Team Assemblies, which when the kids all get together in the cafeterias, and the school counselor will lead different role-playing activities and award students who have shown success in the areas of character ed that they worked on that past month. So it's nice to have the kids kind of get together as a school. And then core elements 2 and 3 have to do with training in HIB policy and procedures. So all of our staff are annually trained on HIB policy every year. And we do have school climate teams in all 3 buildings that meet 2 to 3 times a year. And the purpose of these teams is to develop, foster, and maintain a positive school culture and climate. Core elements 5, 6, 7, and 8 just have to do with our reporting and our investigation. So making sure that all of the staff and community members are aware of reporting procedures. We have that information on our website. And then the investigative staff, just making sure that they adhere to all of the timelines. So we're following the law, and we're making the proper reporting deadlines and thoroughly documenting and appropriately investigating all incidents of suspected HIB. Does anyone have any questions?
It's really involved, I mean, that HIB investigation, isn't it?
It is.
Really, are you the one who does it?
I work with the counselors and the principals to work together, and each situation is different, so.
Because I remember when we used to read something, I have to make a diagram because you got different people involved.
Yeah, we created that diagram, that last basis of decision page to make it easier for you guys to go through the reports.
Do you know, Ms. Packer, is there a state average for that? So if it's a score of 78, I mean, or is there some state average, or even how have we scored in the past comparatively?
We typically score around 77. I would say the one area that's pretty consistent is the training for the members of the school climate team. Okay. And the school climate team also incorporates a parent for each building, so we can offer them opportunities if they so choose to receive some training as well.
But to give you a little context, I think 77 is a very high score. Typically, you see scores more in the mid to low 70s, sometimes in the 60s, but everything seems to be in order here and just running very well. And as I've said before, the numbers are really very low because in a time when districts are struggling and schools are struggling to address HIB incidents for the last 2 years, these numbers are very low and just remaining steady.
I say it's kind of weird that the best number you can get is the 78. I mean, there has to be a reason. I mean, very strange, very strange.
It's just the rubric. Well, I wanted to compliment you, Principal Backer, because I work in this area and I know how absolutely challenging it could be to many districts, and I think it's commendable that we have not only invested so much time, energy, and effort in addressing these issues with our students, but this is a remarkable score. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
We
you.
work well as a team. We're very lucky here.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, next presentation we have for state testing results, Dr. Jones. Wait, Jack, can you also just push this chair in a little bit? It looks like somebody's
we
put
don't
the
have
naughty chair in the middle. Appreciate it.
Okay, good evening. I will be presenting the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment results, among other district testing from last spring of 2023. We offer a DLM assessment, which is dynamic learning assessments for students that are most significantly intellectually disabled in the English language arts, math, and science components called the DLMs. If we have I'm holding this. If we have over 10 students a year testing, then we report those numbers out to the state. Last year, we did not have more than 10 students, so we did not report any numbers out. We also have access testing for ELL students, which is English language learners. They are tested in 4 domains: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. The proficiency levels are 1 through 6 for the ELL assessment. Level 1 is knowing minimal social and academic language. Up to level 6, that is entering. Level 6 is reaching, which is knowing and being able to use social and academic language in the classroom setting, which is measured through this assessment with the state. Here are the results for K-5 from 2022 and 2023 for the purposes of seeing how some grade levels reduce students throughout the years unless they move into the district. And in the highlighted area is the 2023. And up top are the number of students per grade level that were tested.
Can I just ask, is there a lot of movement in and out of the classes? Because we got this before and I tracked the numbers in it. I couldn't quite find a trend, like somebody going from 2nd to 3rd grade and,
Sometimes. It depends on if they started at Gillette in kindergarten receiving services, then they exit quicker as if they were a new student starting in grade 4 or maybe at the middle school.
Sure.
So that's a tricky answer.
Okay.
So sometimes, but not always. At the middle school, it's significantly less, which probably answers some of your question too. We had 2 students in grade 6, 2 in grade 7, and then 1 in grade 8 who did not test, which is why there's an asterisk by number 1. And it's the same levels. Okay, we have continued some of our family outreach programs for families of ELL children in the district. We still use translators for all parent-school meetings through a service. So that's actually utilized tonight for Gillette and Central parent-teacher conferences. We continue to collaborate with the high school for any tutoring opportunities for students. So they have access right after school. They don't have to leave. And we have students from the education program that, and from the director of curriculum at the high school who sends us names. So that's still happening. We communicate through eBlast, all school communications, alerts, translated into each family's home language, as well as offering 10 different languages that are available to be translated through the district website on a drop-down tab. And we have access through lessons on Google Classroom in the family's home language as well. Also, a lot of our programs for music concerts, band concerts are translated in multiple languages through a scan code that Mr. Rideout has available at the K-5 level. our New Jersey Student Learning Assessments. This takes place for students in grades 3 and up in our district 3 through 8 for ELA, math, and science in grades 5 and 8. ELA really focuses on writing effectively when you're analyzing a text. Mathematics focuses on applying the skills that you learned throughout the year. And science focuses on the next-gen science standards and applies the skills for real-life problems in the areas of earth, space, and life and physical science. And this is an online assessment for students and is scored online. So here are results. I put together, this slide is ELA grades 3, 4, and 5 from 2022, 2023, and then I put state assessment data in there as well for 2023. So as you can see, the last two columns, the columns in gray are highlighted for 2023. The last two columns are a combined passing level of 4 and 5 for 2022 and 2023, and 4 and 5 is meeting and exceeding expectations. Okay, the next slide is grades 6, 7, 8. I'd like to point out you can look at it diagonally as well. So it's set up the same, 2022, 2023, and then the state. Now, if I do it up here, okay, so I'm going to walk over here. So if you take a look at, let's say, grade 6, let me highlight it over here. It won't? Okay. All right, if you just look at, so take a look at the first row, grade 6, 2022 passing level 4 and 5 is 64% of students. Go down diagonal to 2 rows under grade 7, and they went from 64% to 74.4%. That's the same cohort of students, okay? And then the same for grade 7, 70.3% in 2022. If you go down to the second to last column, you'll see that group of students went to 87%. Okay, I broke it up into subgroups as well for grades 3 through 8 ELA. If any group did not have 10 or more students, they were not counted in the state numbers. So there are a few columns that do not have more than 10 students in the subgroup. Our subgroups for both ELA and math and for science are female and male, Hispanic or Latino, American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, Caucasian, 2 or more races, economically disadvantaged, ELL learners, migrant, and then students with disabilities. Okay, this is a slide showing our math for grades 3, 4, and 5. Same setup as ELA, level 1 through 5, 2022, 2023, and then the state.
I have a question. First, are we waiting for questions at the end?
I mean, it's up to you, Dr. Jones. What would you like to do?
Oh, that's fine. You can ask me. You can ask now.
Oh, just want to make sure so I'm reading this correctly. So if we're looking at grade 3, you want us to look at the, you want us to look at diagonally, right? So level 1, 2022 for grade 3 is 3.3, and then it would be grade 4, the same cohort, 4.4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that increased, and I see that kind of as a trend, right? Is that how I'm reading it correctly?
Yes, that's how you're reading it. Yes.
For grades 3 and 4 and 5?
That's for all of the grades. If you look diagonal, that's the same cohort of students.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then here's grades 6, 7, 8. So just to add more detail to your question, Mrs. Daly, grade 6, 43.8% in 2022. The same cohort of students went to 60.8. And then grade 7, 51.8, 43.8 the following year. So some years they went up, other years they did not. And then again, broken up into our subgroups, same subgroups as ELA, and same asterisk if a subgroup did not have more than 10 students.
Excuse me, for the
Yes.
groups, let's say, that went down, I got these last spring, was there anything done, for remediation for those cohorts that went down from the previous grade?
Well, we received the scores this fall for those students, but we did have Summer Institute. I don't have that this evening, but I am preparing that for the Student Achievement Committee as another measure, plus our iReady diagnostic scores. So I could probably answer that better in the upcoming months as I have more data.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
And if you go to the previous slide, please. It looks like there seems to be a little bit of difficulty when they go from 7th grade math to 8th grade math. Now, does that include all the math students, or is that just,
That's just general math.
that's just the general?
Yes,
that's
I have
not
another
included-
slide for
Okay.
algebra and geometry.
So,
Yes.
I just want to understand the numbers.
Sure.
In 7th grade, that's all of the math students, and then in 8th grade, it's only the general math students.
Right.
Okay, so that's,
Well, 7th grade, it's general math, and then the next slide is algebra, and then 8th
Okay.
grade geometry.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay,
Katie,
so-
it is common to see a lower percentage for the 8th grade scores in math. That happens in a lot of K-8 districts because of the students being separated, some taking the algebra test, some taking the geometry test.
Okay.
So here's actually algebra and geometry. Again, same format, 22, 23, and then the state. And then again, I combined grade 4 and 5 for the passing scores, the last two columns. And the first table is algebra, and the second table is geometry for the subgroups. Okay, we have science now for just grade 5 and 8 in the district. Same as well, except there are 4 levels. So I combined 3 and 4 as opposed to 4 and 5. So level 3 is proficient and level 4 is advanced proficiency in the skills. So you can see how they scored 2022, 2023, and then I have state under there as well, just as a comparison.
So then, am I reading this correctly? In grades 5 and 8, more than half of the kids are not at a proficient level?
49% are, so yes. For grade 5 and 46 grade 8, yes.
And the state average is 18%.
Right, and for grade 8, yes, 18.5, and then 26.8 for, 18.5 for grade 8, and then 26.8 for grade 5.
It's like really bad.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that in committee, and that's why I asked Laura to get those state averages, because they do provide some sort of context for, the general assessment and the standards for science, which seems to be a little bit different. It seems to be scaled differently than ELA and math.
Seems very strange, yeah, for the numbers that are there.
I think, and we don't have it in front of us right now, but I would think a better comparison hopefully would be 20 or 2019, right? Because across the board, right, nationally, and I want to know about internationally, everybody's probably been focused on math and reading or math and English. Like science is definitely an afterthought. So I don't know if that state average of 26 and 18 is common practice, but
I'm gathering that information from our meeting. And then these are the subgroups for science grade 5 and 8 as well.
So, can I ask another question?
Sure.
So if they only test on 5th and 8th graders, so there's no way to carry through with cohorts.
You can make an assumption from grade 5 to grade 8, it's the same students. I mean, some may move in and out. I don't know if that's a lot.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so some highlights that we noticed when we were reviewing the data. We increased for ELA levels 4 and 5 in grades 5, 7, and 8 from 2022 to 2023. For math, we increased in levels 4 and 5 in grades 4, 5, and 7 from 2022 to 2023. In science, we increased both grades 5 and 8 in levels 3 and 4 combined from 2022 to 2023. And then the ELA slides, we had a reduction of approximately 12 students who exited the program in 2022. And we had 39 students last year in 23 take the access for ELLs. 12 of those students scored a 4.5 or above, which is showing that they are ready to exit, which is 31% of the students. So just like there's areas of highlights, there are also areas that we need to improve upon. In order to improve upon some of our grade levels that did go down from last year or did not see the growth that we would like to see, we have added Conquer Mathematics back for year 1 through 3 teachers who were not trained due to the pandemic when the training stopped for a few years. And just because it says 1 through 3 third year teachers doesn't mean it's only newly hired teachers. So if I'm a teacher and I'm in my 6th year, I may not have gone through 1, 2, and 3 already. So it's not just new teachers. I hope that makes sense. So it's teachers that need it and that have not been exposed. And there are between 4 to 5 workshops per year directly at the site. We implemented IXL for grades 5 through 8 for ELA and math. This is an online learning digital space platform that provides targeted instruction based on the readiness levels of the students. And then teachers can assign recommended lesson plans based on the skills that students need to be more challenged with or need help for remediation with. And they work on that in school. They can also work on that outside of school. We added iReady Diagnostic as part of our universal screener this year for MTSS. The information that we received about the students, a snapshot of how they are progressing, were so detailed and they were really great data that we decided to add the learning platform with it. So we are receiving the iReady ELA for reading and writing and math platform for K through 8. I actually just got an email before I walked in that it's effective immediately. So I did send out an email to the staff today that we would let them know when they can log in and begin this, and I'll let them know tomorrow that they can. But iReady is used in many districts, and it's similar to IXL, but it's much more detailed. And you can set the students up during math centers when you're teaching math workshops. You can provide, teachers can assign this for homework. You can assign this during class time. There's a lot of ways to assign this, but based on the snapshot that you receive from the diagnostic for each student, it provides a Lexile score on the range and the grade level of where your students are meeting, and then you can assign tailor-instructed lessons to them to help them and also to challenge them. And the students progress on their own. So if I'm a student and I'm getting a few answers wrong, it drops me back down. So there's not a frustration level, and then it brings you back up when you're ready for that. So it's an excellent form of differentiation in and out of the classroom for students, both in ELA and math. And training is coming for teachers within the next few weeks. We also, we administer the diagnostic 3 times a year. So Gillette's taking a little bit longer. We're using iPads because their fingers are a lot smaller than middle school. And we are, I would say, 75% finished at Gillette, and we're hoping to get more done this week. But the results so far are just amazing. And lastly, we have implemented the multi-tiered system of supports, which is MTS. We have been unofficially doing this for years with tier 1, 2, and 3 levels of intervention and accommodations for students that are struggling. Now it's a more formalized approach. A lot of teachers went through differentiation of instruction training last year as part of the grant to receive this, and they are continuing with the training this year, more in iReady and how to utilize the online platform and assessments. But pretty much many schools are using this as a framework for targeted support for struggling learners. So we're hoping that some of these intervention strategies, among other intervention strategies that we will come up with during the year. Last year we changed guide a little bit. We started after-school classes earlier. So there are other things that we have been talking about, but these are definitely the 4 to highlight for the purposes of raising the test scores for the future for the district.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, it's Q&A time.
I'm so sorry. You said that you guys are a little bit behind because the kids are using iPads. Is that just because we have less iPads than we do?
No, it's just the screen is very touchy. So when the students are manipulating the mouse, they're clicking. We tried it. They're clicking everywhere, and it brought them back to the beginning, and it erased their data. So
No, I'm saying is the reason why it's taking longer with the iPad because we have fewer iPads.
Well, yes. I mean, we have 25 for the school, so
Yeah.
we're on a rotating basis. So that is part of it, yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right, go ahead. No, you go.
Dr. Jones, thank you
Yes.
for the presentation,
Sure.
for the information, and for the explanation of the strategies. There are groups of students who are performing well in the school, but what concerns me is that we have, at grade levels and then at some subsections, kids who are not performing, where I think we had numbers in the past, probably pre-COVID, and also where I think that as a district we would like to see our students be. So it's not a question, it's just really a message for you and the administration and the staff. I think that we need to approach this information with a sense of urgency. For some of the students, particularly in the middle school, we have less than 2 years to really help support them to get them to a level where they're performing at state average, or above what those passing scales are. And I think it's essential that we do everything that we can. We want to set them up not only for success at the high school, but I think I worry about confidence levels, and what they're experiencing. And I know that with the interventions that you're speaking about, it is on your radar. I just think it's important for us to reflect and keep those students who are struggling in mind, and keep checking in on them with a sense of how are they progressing and how can we help them move, further in their learning.
Okay, those are excellent points. I agree.
For the iReady, Dr. Jones, and it says followed by targeted instruction, and you kind of explained it. Will parents see any of that, or is that all in the classroom?
So parents they're seeing it now. Gillette, some might be at parent-teacher conferences, but yes, we're going to share all of that with parents. And when the students log in at home, the parents will actually see everything as well. And I think in the very beginning of the year, I sent out a memo to all the parents on what to expect. And I can send another one out once we've complete the first diagnostics on what a snapshot looks like, maybe put an example in there so it's easier to read.
I know that there was the prevailing sentiment among the principals was that you wanted to go through and explain this in parent-teacher conferences.
Yes.
And then in the future, we would make this a more direct communication about the progress of the kids, because it's all about helping them learn and grow. It's about, identifying those strengths, building on strengths, but also identifying the areas for growth and helping them fill in those gaps.
Anybody else? Okay. Danielle.
So going off the iReady stuff, so you were saying as it's targeted to where they're at, and then the teacher would be able to give them assignments in class. Would they also be able to go home and just practice on their own?
Yes.
And their progress would then go over to, at school?
Right. The more that they do at home,
Right.
the more that they will move along into
Right.
the path that they need to be on. Yes.
Okay. I recall, I don't know if we still have it. It used to be, I definitely remember when we were in pandemic and we were doing that math that was like timed. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Extra?
Yes.
Extra math. And there was
Extra.
something else too. There were two.
Lexi's the reading.
The one that
Yeah,
was
Lex was
timed
reading.
specifically, because that one would that's just-
Prodigy? No. No, that's something.
No, it was extra math, but there was another one that I remember. The screen was yellow. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm forgetting what it is.
Screen was yellow, but,
Give my kids so much
anyway, I just wanna make sure,
anxiety.
like, because that's something that they can practice and practice
Mm-hmm.
and practice, and then hopefully just get better when they're also doing their assignments at home, it will just carry over, like, if they did move up
Yes.
a level.
Right.
So, okay, sorry, I'm just,
No, sure.
That's good.
I think that kind of goes in line, I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the things we talked about in our committee meeting is that, you know, as much as we can do at school to help with these scores, getting parental involvement and kind of, the more engaged a parent is in these issues, in these classes and scores and testing, the better the scores are. So definitely, I think reaching out to parents and showing them that we provide this at home. I guess it's through Clever.
Yes, they can log in through Clever. And I'm adding, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, but I'm saying like, this is great that they can do it from home. It's easy. They're not having to spend money. And hopefully we can communicate that well with the parents that this is a great way, not only to improve their scores, but for the district to improve scores. So I think it's valuable.
Right. I'll send out something separate for that once we finish the diagnostics, but I'm also adding a piece of that to the curriculum newsletter at the end of November, updating parents on a lot of things that have been going on for the first 3 months of school.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I also want to say it's okay. The scores are one way to see what the kids are mastering, but so it's more about, are the kids meeting the standards of what they're supposed to be learning every year? And so this assessment is one way. Now it seems like we have a lot of different ways to make those assessments. So, you know, the scores are, you know, one indicator, but there's several indicators of success that we could look at for students, and we should be looking at all of those. But at the end of the day, we want to see our students master the content and be successful and as successful as they can be. So thank you.
Sure. And what my plan is, go ahead.
No, I just, because it's valuable to Conquer Math. The thing that's so great about Conquer Math is it's teaching teachers how to teach to the standard.
Yes.
So
That's correct.
A great way that we're remedying the situation with the different programs, but we're also training the teachers better on how to teach to the standards. So we're kind of
Right.
working on this in different angles, which
Right.
is important.
As opposed to teaching to the program,
Yeah.
right? We're teaching to the standards. So what my hope is at the end of the school year, maybe presenting again with some information from the iReady data that we receive to show some progress, or maybe not. You know, we'll see. It's our first year. I'm hoping that we will, and to see how the students progress from the beginning to the middle to the end of the year too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay. Communications. I think I got, did you, go ahead.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. I think we did get I got a communication regarding busing. I know that Mr. Alexis and the rest of the board office was dealing with that. And then I think another communication regarding the per pupil spending, and that was all that I received. Board committee and liaison reports. Start with Karen.
Okay. I attended the Morris County Ed Services Commission meeting, excuse me, in October. It was two things. They really did a lot on going over what they were presenting at the conference, and then they were able to announce that they had an audit of 0 recommendations also. I attended the Morris County New Jersey School Boards Association meeting in October, and I think I sent to the board what I received. It has, so you have the copy of the presentations that they did a lot again leading into the conference, but then there were 2 presentations associated with trauma identification and remediation. The next school boards meeting is in December. These meetings, you don't need Robin to register you, and they could go in person or virtual. So I'll get out what the topic is, and you can decide. And I think I sent it to you earlier in the year. Like, you can actually go and look at the topics that are going to be available in all counties, and you can sign up for a topic you saw in Salem County if you wanted. So it's an easy way. It's a nice way to get maybe some extra training, or training or information at least. As you noted, Melissa's not here, and she asked me to go over the policy. Now, as you can tell by the agenda, we're just zipping right along. And for policy 9130, there were some grammar changes, and we also shored up the area where it talks about the dissolution of the committees at the end of the year and the carryover, at least for the first year, so we don't lose any work. Policy 1600, only the legal references had to be updated. There were no changes at all to, excuse me, to 2224.1, 2224.1 exhibit, 2224.1 regulation, and 2240. It was only a change of one word, or I shouldn't say one word, the title of Statement of Assurance section, and it's no longer required on an annual basis. That's the only thing that went into the 2225 one. We've been maintaining, actually, we're ahead of the schedule with the great spreadsheet that Melissa put together. We're trying to get it to a point where we are rolling 1/3 of the policies over every year. And we've exceeded it by what? 25 this year, I think, already?
Yes.
So we were not gonna have a meeting in November, treat ourselves, but then we are having a meeting in November. And if we don't need it, we won't have one in December. And basically, George and Mrs. Cullen are going through looking at the policies associated with parent and family engagement. Excuse me. In addition, there are 2 policies really dealing with some legal, I guess, actions or involved references.
Yeah, just
For the board attorney and the attendance and absences and excuses. So our next meeting is slated for November 16th at 7 o'clock. Okay, and we go to governance. Hopefully you got a copy of the minutes, and you had a link to our presentation that we delivered at the conference. From what we can tell, we were somewhat well-received. We talked further on the mission and vision. Anne suggested that one of the things we could do is, why not ask the students what do they want to be as a graduate of this district? So we've got to work something out in terms of working with the middle school to see how we're going to, survey the students. Governance training, to maintain, we need a rolling number of credits, 16 credits every 3 years. And fortunately, by doing the superintendent search ourselves, we picked up a big chunk of credits. But we also drop a big chunk at the other end. You see, it's a rolling thing. So in order to keep it up, we have to at least get 3 or 4 credits a year. And as a reminder, December meeting, we will have our first mid-year retreat. And so the committees should be reporting on where they are with their goals for that part of the year. And Charlene will be leading us in that. And we get training points for that. In terms of board transparency, we kind of discussed it, and we said that the board is acting appropriately, and we felt the board pledge and the code of governance, and the way we sign it affirms our commitment to that. Now, this is, Ann followed up, if you remember the last meeting, something came up associated with the all-school council, and in consulting with Charlene, she noted that there is really a conflict to have a board member on such a council. And George is going to, or has already worked with, or will be working with, and continue to work with Lauren and Kerry on dealing with this. And we're going to have our next meeting on November 15th. Okay. Finance.
You need hats to put on.
For the agenda, you saw that we had 3 cases on the books. One is formally completed, so to speak, but we've paid our deductible, so anything else that goes on to it is associated with those cases is going to be paid under our insurance. Basically, you heard a lot of numbers thrown out with the audit, but when we sat at the meeting, the bottom line was we are stable and doing well. And one of the big things that came up is, remember the ROD grant, and we were very, very fortunate. They categorized the levels of capital projects that they would, the state would fund, and they categorized 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 7, or maybe even beyond 7. Fortunately, most of our programs fell in the 1 to 4 category. 1 fell into the 7 category and was not approved, but we got ROD funding. Out of the total of the $930,000 for the projects, we will receive approximately $372,000, and our share will be $558,000. It's very important that I mention this. It sounds like a round robin. The only way to get the grant is to show that you didn't need the grant to pay for the project. So that was really very good. That's what our business software works at. Free and reduced lunches. The business office is investigating food service companies that could probably provide that. Tech position, I think the personnel committee will be putting one on it. I'm going to ask Robin to address the different reports that we were submitted or completing. As you can see, we have a budget calendar you're going to be approving at the meeting, this meeting, and then once it's approved, it'll be published online, on our website, and that fund begins. Okay, all the bills are reviewed and you're good to go on them. And just for some extra stuff, busing seems to be a little bit better, but the sub-bus drivers seem to continue to be an issue. Just so you know, the fields at Millington and Gillette will be renovated in the very near future. And it was pointed out by Robin that our district vehicles are getting very worn and are, having a lot of repairs. And I'm going to ask her to comment on the Pritchett contract that you could say about the schools. Okay. Now, I have some information I want to, to clarify some of the expenditures and elements of the budget. I don't know, do you want me to do it now, or do you want to wait till the end, or?
You could go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, I want to just take an opportunity to clarify some expenditures of the district and our budget, especially at this time. Excuse me. There are two things that I'm going to concentrate on. Those associated with what we'll call ESSER funds, and that associated with the regular budget. As you know, or as you may not know, ESSER funds were made available by the federal government to provide a wide range of services or resources for diverse needs in the school district's during the pandemic time. And so that at the end, when it was over, we could basically come out stronger. Now, those funds carried, like the Summer Institute that we've had. It involved social and emotional training for the teachers. It also involved equipment. A lot of our ESSER funds were used for our HVAC systems because you had to have meet certain criteria for circulation and purification of the air. Some of our systems only needed filters, but some equipment needed some work as well as filters. But I just wanted to assure the public that in all cases, the use of the ESSER funds was in total compliance with the federal requirements and regulations of those expenditures. Now, there's always a good presentation on the budget, and I looked at Dan's podcast again. It really is a good explanation of the user-friendly budget. But sometimes when you hear the meanings of what it is with the numbers, you focus on the numbers if they're right in front of you, and people could be jumping around. So what I want to do is talk about the basics of some of the budget without the numbers, so to speak. So there was a time when the public voted on the budget, and then it changed. And if we stay within a cap of 2% year over year, The only thing that's required is that the Board of Education pass the vote. Okay. In our district, approximately 92% of our budget is fixed, so to speak. Salaries, associated taxes, health benefits, pension benefits, insurances, and contracts, as well as utilities and supplies, are what make up very large portion of that fixed part. There's also some other elements that are in there. Often the increase in a contract is higher than the 2%. And sometimes on those things that we have to make an estimate about, in terms of increase, it comes out higher. So for example, health benefits at a point in time once increased 12%. And then again, I want to report, we could have a 2% increase year over year. The 8% of the budget that could be called discretionary is used to fund things such as textbooks and the materials, their associated materials, and staff training. In all cases, insurance, utility expenditures, or textbooks, our business office is constantly looking for sources and ways to get the best price. So in some cases, it means joining a cooperative like they did, or we are in, for our utilities, our electricity. In some cases, it can be that there are federal funds available for training or textbooks or special classes. And then, of course, there's possibility of maybe even getting grants. Whatever is out there, the business office and the administration and staff are, beating the ground, beating the drums to find as much money as they can. Now, this leads to something. So they've done a lot of good searching around, and at the end of the year, it looks like we have some money left over. But that money that's left over was not in the budget in the first place. What happened during the course of the year is, yes, maybe they were able to get a supplier that gave and they were able to get supplies at a less expensive price. Maybe the funds that we hold for a while before we use, they got a bank that offered more interest. And in some way, we got some extra funds. Now, sometimes those funds they're used in different ways. They can be used to prepare our reserve for future projects. They can be used to handle maybe some unanticipated maintenance needs. In some cases, depending on how we sit, might take those funds and actually buy supplies we know that we need for the next year, buy it ahead of time, so we're saving that money on that budget. Okay. And now I want to just talk about the 2% increase. There are some times when where we have less than a 2%, let's say if we had less than a 2% increase. And if I use last year's numbers, and let's say we only had a 1.95% increase, it would be $17,750 less. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but let's think of it like this. If we used money out of our capital reserve and we said we had to fund, we were going to use a lot of money to kind of build that balance up. Now it's 17, that building up is 17,000 plus less. Okay, so now I want to move to, maybe think about it, maybe there were textbooks that we were supposed to be getting in a particular year, but now we have 17,000 plus less. We're going to have to push those textbooks out to the next year. Okay, so we kind of ate it, for the current year. Now the new year comes along. So, lo and behold, we didn't use the money. We could have put it in maintenance. We didn't put it in maintenance. So now we got a big maintenance problem because we didn't put back the money that we spent. We put it back at a lower level. So what do we have to do? We have to dip into the well again. So we're lowering our maintenance reserve, excuse me, and maybe pushing out actually some maintenance projects. Now you can just take this on. So let's say it comes up, okay, the textbooks that we didn't get last year, we're going to get this year. But wait a minute, now I can't go get these two textbooks that I signed up for this year. I'm going to have to put at least another one to the next year. So all of a sudden, every year, not using our appropriate allotment of 2%, somehow we begin digging ourselves into a hole. And how should I say this? There are actually state requirements sometimes on some, and Robin can correct me, on the requirements of what we have to have in reserve and what we have to contribute to it. You know, we have buildings and facilities that are valued at a certain level, and the state expects us to maintain those. So now I want to just repeat something. So remember the capital reserves before. I said, if we didn't prudently replenish our capital reserves, we might not have, well, might not have been able to get these ROD grants. Again, it's like the catch-22. We could only get those grants if we proved we could pay for it without the grants.
Right,
So
because
that's
it's
under-
because it's a reimbursement program, so we have
Right.
to pay for the whole thing. Once we pay for it, they will reimburse us back. So we have to be able to pay.
So it was very, fortuitous that we did have enough in our reserve. Okay, now I want to say, let's say the budget increase is only 2%. And sometimes, though, the tax levy is above 2%. Say, why does that happen? This is why it happens. So all of a sudden, the state says, I will allow you to put in 8% increase for health benefits. And lo and behold, what happens? Your health benefits come in at 12%. So now what the state says, you can take an allowance, I guess I'm calling it an allowance. That 4% extra money says you can pull out. You don't use that in your calculation, just calculate based on 10%. Go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to allow you to add that money back in on the top. So that's how you get a levy that's higher than 2%, even though you said your budget only increased 2%. Now, I'm going to say this. Using that money, that extra money, is really borrowing for the future again. That's money you can't count on every year. It's not in your budget. So when you go next year to calculate the 2%, that extra money that you had there, or you used to add it on to the other budget, is not there. So all of a sudden you have another gap. Fortunately, for the past couple of years, we have not utilized our allowances. We don't want to plan to use money that we might not get. And they've been able to keep, and we've been able to maintain, a nice level of 2% increase. And I think the big thing is which I should have said before, when you get into the hole that I mentioned before, what happens is in 1 year you're gonna have to come up and say, wait a minute, I need to get a 5% increase, in taxes, because you're building that hole of pushing things out and not filling up your reserve and all. And the bottom line of all of this is, a small district. We have, we're hindered by our reliance on personal property tax, not a lot of rateables, a lot of fixed costs, et cetera. But I have to tell you, the administration, the staff, the business office, they work very, very hard to, like I said, find money from other sources and to provide the most that they can with what they have to work with. They really work at that. Now, I hope some of this information makes some of the things a little clearer. Maybe some of it, the way I explained it, makes it a little less understandable, but hopefully it helps us and the people.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Any questions for Karen?
I did want to say, in terms of the governance report, just because I know Karen is speaking about herself and Kim and George in their presentation for the New Jersey school boards, and maybe not giving it as big as a thank you from all of us. I think you do a great service for Long Hill Township schools, for us as a board, in that work that both of you and George put in to go down to New Jersey school boards, give up your time, and teach other districts on what we're doing here with governance. So I think on behalf of all of us, thank you. I know, Karen, you can't thank yourself, so I had to stop and thank you.
I want to second that. I think
Yeah.
when we went through the process, the hiring process, it's a really great way to showcase our district. We received a lot of feedback during our hiring committee journey, that left a huge impact on people around the state. That we are a very well-run board and that our governance is very important to us here. And I think it shines a really good light on the district. So thank you.
As a
Well, to tell you the truth,
participant,
what we're
as a
gonna do is we're
participant,
gonna
I
take our
wanted to let you.
presentation to Broadway, and we're gonna get Melissa's spreadsheet, and we're gonna copyright it, and we have extra money coming in.
Copyright. I'm sorry, Robin. go
I just wanted to say, as a participant, I was really proud. I came away from there, I sat at the table, I listened to comments. The people at my table, when you all started to speak, they just turned to me and they went like, wow, I wish my board was like that. And then when I got into other sections where people sat next to me, they said, are they really like that? I said, yeah, it really is that good. They said, how did they get to be that good? That the thing they couldn't understand is how you got 9 people together who really all followed the same plan and had the same emotion about it. Not all boards are that way, but you all were very, very well spoken and very much appreciated. Like I said, I heard it in several different areas at several different dinners where people just said like that's really good. And they went to things. People actually went twice where they said, yes, I went last year. And it was so good. I went again. That was I think was very positive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you never know if anyone's going to walk through the door, so you kind of, and thank you to George for jumping in with Karen and I. He was a great addition from a superintendent's perspective, and it was a decent amount of work, but it's actually fun to do, I think, to talk to everybody and have conversations with people from different districts, so.
That's when the questions and answers, and the comments back and forth, they worked it like an action lab. Last time, it was supposed to be an action lab, but they didn't have the room for it, so it wound up being just a group session. This was an action lab, so there were things to do, and we could walk around and talk to people, so it was nice.
Yes. And all our technology works, so that always
Yes.
helps. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Danielle, anything to report?
Yes, from the PTO, I just want to let everyone know that the food days, the second ordering period for December and January dates are currently open and they will close on November 10th. The next PTO general meeting is going to be November 29th at 7 p.m. in the Millington Media Center. And the 15th annual PTO coat drive collection will be December 4th through 15th. New and clean, gently used winter coats can be donated at all 3 schools. And of course, like usual, if anyone has any questions, please email them at lhtpto@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Any questions for Danielle? No? Okay. Crystal, I'm going to think that you probably don't have anything to report. Okay. I don't want to. Okay.
Doing the list out.
Next meeting. Okay. Ann.
The Student Achievement and Curriculum Committee met on November 1st. You saw the majority of our meeting already in Dr. Jones's presentation. We had gone over the NJSLA presentation prior to the meeting. We had a very brief discussion about the Summer Institute and preliminary data to review in terms of, evaluating the success of the program. But also to say that there's, beyond the data, there's feedback from teachers and student families of really the emotional value of the students being able to work with their teachers in that setting over the summer. Some kids enjoy it. It makes students who sometimes feel a little apprehensive about school feel more comfortable in the school environment. There's an update regarding Hudson Way that Mr. Alexis will be giving in his brief, and that was that.
Okay. Any questions for Ann? No? Okay. Alex?
Yes, thank you. And Karen, I wanted to thank you for offering the master class and summary of what you did on the finance. I actually think it's really important for those who are at home listening to better understand what goes into our decision-making and the budget, which is a very complicated and very lean, budget. So thank you very much for offering it. And it kind of segues pretty well into my Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, which we had on November 3rd. It was attended by Mr. Alexis, Mark Persina, Frank Murgatroyd, and Adele, our princess, I should say.
Yes.
Princess of Auditland. But honestly, I've worked closely with Adele for a few years now, and we're so grateful to her for all the work that she does to keep the team focused, and honestly, I don't think we would be able to accomplish half of what we do without her. So I'm pleased to report that Frank it started as, I always forget his title, but essentially the director of
Facilities manager.
Facilities manager. Thank you very much, Robin. I was very encouraged by our first meeting with Frank. He seemed to have hit the ground running. And as I understand it, he's really started to tackle some of the open work orders that we have in our school dude. I've known this system for like 10 to 15 years, and I find it funny that it's called school dude. But School Dude is essentially a work order management system for building maintenance projects. He met with each of the administrators to kind of coach them on what is an appropriate work order and how to communicate with his staff in order to address any sort of building needs, from what should be an immediate emergent phone call to what you could just notify a custodian to do and take care of rather promptly. And a work order is something that's a little bit more involved, that needs a purchase order maybe or some sort of supplies. But he's tackled a work order history with like 540 items on it, and it's probably down to 100 at this point, which is really good accomplishment. He mentioned that there are 2 staff members who are primarily responsible for addressing these things, and they're averaging about 73 work orders in a month, which is pretty remarkable too. So we're grateful for our staff that seems to be addressing those building needs, to making sure that the operation is tight. And I look forward to working with Frank. On another item, since I'm giving him some praise, he showed me what is essentially going to hopefully be the future of our HVAC system, which is more of a electronically assessed and monitored system that's under control from a remote location. And the ROD grants that Karen was speaking of is going to help us take a big leap into that direction. So we're encouraged by that, and hopefully that could be something that we look forward to in the next few years as we continue to invest in those systems. Speaking of investments, we had project updates provided related to the 3 classrooms that we spent some resources renovating. The kindergarten room 10 we walked into, and it was awesome to see what a modern and new and clean and well-designed kindergarten space would look like. So that was a bright spot of our meeting. I was in awe. Mark wanted to see my reaction, but I was incredibly impressed by it, and I thank everyone for the hard work that they did putting into it. We had previously gone to Central, so we didn't see it at this last meeting on Friday. But I was told that some of the furniture has been delivered for the new classroom 33 and the STEAM classroom over at Central. Some delivery issues, some supply issues, but still we're working on getting those outfitted before the end of the year. There's still a few punch list items related to the new fire alarms at Central, related to the new staff lavatories at Central, but those are being addressed, relatively minor things. And we're TBD on the schedule, but we still have the plan to renovate the Gillette and Millington School baseball and softball fields, as well as a tune-up for the Central field. Those are things that we had not really put a lot of effort or attention to a couple years ago that required another reinvestment. But now that we get them back to usable form, hopefully those little tune-ups are the ones that we need just to kind of keep things going in the right direction. There's an anticipated county inspection for the IPM, the Integrated Pest Management. That is expected soon. We talked a little bit about a meeting that we had with the architects related to the 5-year capital improvement plan. We're all on the same page now, moving forward, and expect to get some improved work product from them in the months ahead. So we'll be sharing that hopefully by January or February. I'm trying to make this quick. There was a completed health and safety evaluation of the schools that we will hopefully look forward to in the next meeting. And there is another thing that Frank is working on is kind of reevaluating and assessing our custodial equipment, making sure that everything's up to par, and we're using the resources that we have to address that. Sorry if I took that from you, Robin. So we had a very good meeting, and let me see if there's anything else. I think we're good. I think we covered most of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Alex?
Alex, when you said they'll be working on it, you mean the architects are gonna be working on our plan, or the buildings and grounds gonna be working on a plan, or?
So it's currently in the, I believe it's currently back in the hands of the architect. This is a living and
Yeah.
ongoing document. But we, had a meeting with them about what the expectations were going forward for what we're trying to accomplish within the buildings and grounds. So I think based on that feedback, they're gonna come back and give us some more concrete report or plans. That's my expectation.
Right. And expand the long-range facilities plan.
And expect.
Kind of take
thank you
another
very-
look at it and expand it.
Thank you very much, George.
Any other questions? Okay, Tom?
Thank you. On November 2nd, the Technology Committee met. In attendance was George Alexis, myself, and Jack Hartnett. Without Jack, we would know nothing. Thank you, Jack. In that meeting, Jack shared with us that if approved tonight, the IT team will be expanded by one new person, Andrew McAvoy, title being IT Technician. He is a former Long Hill and Watchung Regional student, and fortunately, thank you, Mr. Alexis, for reaching out, and
All I did was mention to Jack that there was a possibility that he might be looking for a job, and Jack took it from there.
magic happened. So, thank you both. He'll be responsible for the primary IT technician functions of end-user support, Chromebook repair and management, programming, scripting, and systems administration. The IT infrastructure improvements have been made. Upgrade of all network switching hardware in the district has been completed. That's done. They're continuing to fix improper cable network runs district-wide. In other words, it's saying, how did cable runs get put in the first place? First cable run, just somebody ran it, and the second cable run, somebody ran it. And does it all make sense? Now it will. Thank you, Jack. Many thanks to Mark Brasina and our entire Buildings and Grounds teams for their assistance throughout this entire project. They have assisted the technology department by installing proper wall corings, which I learned out is a real word. It's a hole in the wall that you can put stuff through. Electrical outlets, and assisted with the network cable runs. The assistance has allowed for new physical headquarters for Chromebook repair and recycling. So rather than willy-nilly, there'll be one place where that can be done. Alex had asked us to take a look into Chromebooks and extension of using them. Also, I believe it was whiteboards you were talking about, correct? If that's a technology of the future. To the whiteboards, Jack had reported that over the past year that they've been moving more towards a service-based model instead of a product-based model. The priority is to work with building administrators to determine the level of service required in the classroom to deliver adequate technology to meet the needs of the staff and students. As it was explained, dumbed down to this guy, we used to have projectors and the big carts with the film, with the camera, the projectors on them, and we don't have them anymore. What happened? Then, technology moved on and moved on and moved on. So he's looking into to see if the new technology is whiteboard or is it beyond that. Some of the things that the new whiteboards can do, which they're trialing, is it's larger, 75 inches versus 65 inches. And it has enhanced capabilities where it can do split screen options with better access and at a lower price point than the current interactive displays that is being used in our district. And the plan is to gather teacher feedback to guide the device planning in future budget cycles. In other words, let's see how this stuff works. Because, you know, I know we've all gone out there and gone car shopping, and every car dealer will tell you theirs is the best. So the only way to really find it is take it out for a test drive, and that's what the IT department is doing for us. Our next meeting is February 1st at 3:30, and that'll be via Google Meet.
Any questions for Tom? Okay, great. Katie?
On November 1st, the Community Relations Committee met virtually. It was attended by myself, George Alexis, Karen Nyquist, Kim Case, and Tom Groskopf. We went over the website review. Lists have been distributed to the various committee chairs to share with their committee and to review. There's usually, I think on each group, there's about 4 or 5 things to look over, and the idea is to look for errors and omissions and things that are confusing, not to rewrite the entire section. And there is a Google form to send that to the IT department. Georgia's working with Jack to update the to come up with a regular schedule of updating the photo carousel. We had a picture of Santa Claus for quite many months, and we no longer have that.
It looks great, too.
And the idea will be to kind of have it maybe perhaps quarterly or seasonally, to include school events, holidays, like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, things like that. Visitor events and like PTO, various events there, and also including school sports and school activities. The district also will be beginning to look to update the website. This is going to be a long-term project. So in the beginning of 2024, Jack and our new I forget his name, I apologize.
Andrew.
Andrew will be working together to kind of begin that process, and also it requires quite a bit because there's budget concerns, there's technological concerns, and just time concerns because there's a lot to do and not a lot of people to do it. So we have to bear that in mind, and it'll be a good process, and hopefully sooner than later we'll have an update with a more modern look and feel to the website, and a better way to access the information. But everyone should be a little patient because all good things come to those who wait. So the next thing we discussed was kind of social media. There were some concerns that it didn't seem on our website that the posts, the tweets on there were being updated regularly, but it seems like it's a technology concern, not an actual tweeting concern. So that's something that we're looking into. And then we discussed the strategic communications plan. We have one in place. It was done by a previous superintendent. So this is something that Mr. Alexis is working on. The things that we discussed, and because the one that is in place is not exactly what we thought a strategic communications plan should really look like. So we discussed kind of what we really want from a communications plan, and the things that we talked about was kind of streamlining the look and kind of vehicle and how the weekly emails that go out to families come, because every single school has a different process, and it would kind of present a more unified front to have everything come one way, and some of the ways are better than others. So it's a work in progress, but that's something we're working on. Simplifying our logo and letterhead, improving the website, consistent and regular updates for social media, the school signs, etc. Also discussing, appropriate communications from the board, so that when we get emails from the community, we have a way to respond that does fall in line with the regulations that are in place, that we cannot speak for the board and we don't represent the district, but if we want to acknowledge an email that comes in, so kind of help us as a board to have that plan, and also communications with the public from the district when there's an emergency, whether it be, weather, transportation, etc. That's something also that will be discussed. And I think that's, finally, we also talked about, outreach to the Long Hill community at large. One of the things that we really want to work on this year is engaging with the seniors of the community, whether it's through the senior center or the senior living communities in the area. And so we're talking about, whether it's like performing there at the school, at the senior center or at Loudonsbury, perhaps engaging with them in various ways, the plays, the concerts, et cetera, making it available for them to come. I think in the past they've come to rehearsals for the plays and things like that, just for our community members to see what's going on in our schools. I've reached out to the township, and it's still a work in progress, but about presenting student work and projects, whether it be in the actual the halls or in the library. And we also discussed possibly some of the businesses in the area, whether it's, some of the restaurants, et cetera. So I'm going to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce about that. And that is all. Our next meetings, I just closed my page. Our next meetings are November 29th and January 10th. Okay, and so next is the Long Hill Education Foundation. The Long Hill Ed Foundation, we had a very successful wine tasting fundraiser on Saturday night. We had about 95 attendees at the Riverview Catering Hall in Berkeley Heights. We raised approximately $4,000 between ticket sales, and also we were generously donated. I think we had 40 baskets from local communities, local community businesses. So the raffle that went on with that, Mr. Alexis was there, as well as fellow members of the board, and it was a really great night. So we were very appreciative of that. The Griggs, I think it's the Griggs Farm pie sale has concluded. We sold 150 pies. They will be distributed on Saturday, November 18th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at Central School. And this is a really fun one. There's a brewery in town called Oak Flower Brewery. It's in Millington, and they collaborated with us and created an IPA that is referred to as Recess. And if you purchase the can, there's actually a drawing by one of the Long Hill students that knows the family. You can purchase this, if you're over 21, you can enjoy a draft at their facilities, or else you can purchase cans. And the portion of the proceeds to these to the sales actually comes to the Ed Foundation. We thought that was really a fun way, and they are one of our silver sponsors. So that was an exciting thing that we don't discuss every day at the Board of Ed meetings. And so finally, our winter force registration. The classes will be announced towards the end of November, and registration will start on December 6th. Just a note to parents, registration, I believe starts at 8 a.m. We've been getting 1 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m. emails from parents that are very frustrated that they can't log in. So just bear in mind that it does not start until 8 a.m. because, we're a very small operation, and we cannot respond to everyone's concerns. So we appreciate everyone's patience. And that is everything.
Great. Any questions for Katie? Obviously, congrats to you guys for Saturday night. It was a great event, and this was like a pioneered event for you guys. You hadn't done something like that before, so thank you for working so hard for the kids.
Can I also joke that recess can be enjoyed at home, but is discouraged from any public school property, right?
Excuse me, yes. And only enjoyed by people over the age of 24.
Okay, I'll report quickly on personnel, which really is laid out on the agenda. But we met on November 2nd, the Personnel and Negotiations Committee. It was Tom, Melissa, and myself and Mr. Alexis. Really, items number 24 through 36 really outline what we reviewed. So the technology department, you guys are growing. We discussed or updated on leaves of absence, any resignations, appointments, if there were any transfers in buildings for power professionals. I also want to thank, we have 2 volunteers who are going to lead robotics, Kara Finken and Nick Morley, so thank them for their time. Started teeing up a conversation on staffing for next year. And I think the other item that was brought up was around fencing, and that unfortunately we won't have a fencing program at Central this year because we could not find a fencing coach. So hopefully we can remedy that for next year. It wasn't without effort, though.
Correct.
So that's what I have for personnel. Any questions for me? Okay, good. Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations, Crystal, on being
Yes.
sworn in. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much.
And congratulate, it's so great to have the administrative leadership team here, having Adele here. It's really nice, and thank you for staying for the entirety of the meeting. It's much appreciated. As Robin said, it's a team effort, and congratulations to the board and to the business office and everyone who supports that effort to make sure that we are using the money responsibly, and that really was a very good explanation in a lot of ways to help people understand how this works and how the budget can be restrictive. I'm going to reach back to October 9th. We had our professional development day then, and went very smoothly. The iReady courses were, the training that took place got favorable reviews. And I also want to mention another example of what Karen was talking about, how the business office tries to save money and build up the surplus by for the end of the year. Between Lori and Dan going back and forth with the iReady sales consultant, we ended up saving more than $10,000 on the originally quoted price when we wanted to expand it to use the educational tool that's going to be in place probably this week, if not the week after, when we get back from break. We're also very pleased that the music room dedication ceremony was absolutely lovely, honoring the memory of Nick Stevens. And I just want to recognize some folks. One is Principal Vitorello and his assistant Stephanie Alber, Nick Deakins and Jennifer Shipon, two of the band teachers over at Central Middle School, who led our middle school students in some musical pieces during the ceremony. My assistant, Liz Mickles, was such a big help throughout the whole process. Kim was there making remarks. And I hope I have this right, but I'm not forgetting someone. But Karen, Katie, and Ann, I believe were all there in attendance to supporting the board and representing the board. Yes, our presentation at NJSBA was very well received, Robin. We appreciate the comments that you overheard. They were great. We also asked the group, and again, as I prefaced everything, it was Karen and Kim, who did the lion's share of all this work, and they deserve the credit for it. They represented the board with their skill and professionalism, and it was very well received. At the end, we said, what's one takeaway to our audience? And the response that we got from one gentleman was, all of it, and I mean, how much better does it get? I know you also received from NJSBA, sterling remarks in the feedback that was given. So kudos to them. And it just reminded me too, and this was said earlier, Katie, you mentioned it. It reminded me, why I'm so proud to be here and happy to be here. And so thank you. And it's really a credit to the entire board, because this is 4 years in the making, right? I'm just an interloper. I showed up in the last year and got into the presentation, but all of you have been working on this for 4 years, and it's making a difference, and it's really casting the district in a positive light. I want to thank the LHEF for the kind invitation to the fundraiser. I had a great time. It was really very enjoyable. We're so fortunate to have such strong community partners. And on a related note, I want to point out that one of the field trips on the agenda does involve the CMS students traveling to the senior center. I'm pointing this way, I should be pointing that way, next door to the Gillette School, so that they can help members of the community with their technology devices and assist them in other ways. Yes, we unfortunately, after trying multiple avenues, we were not able to find the fencing coach, but we will continue to work on that and hopefully have a program next year again. Ann mentioned the Hudson Way sort of communications, and they've reached out to us because they're trying to expand their program to grades 5 through 8. Through 6 through 8. The plan is to begin with the 6th grade next year. They're trying to test the waters to see how many students may be returning. They don't think it'll be more than 8 to 10 at most. But what they would like is being able to send those students over to the middle school to take science class and in return, they would offer one of their Chinese teachers to create some sort of program for our students, probably an after-school program. But I think it's worth exploring, and we talked about it with the Student Achievement Committee, so it really could be a nice opportunity. So I will be following up with them this week. The biannual Student Safety Data System, the SSDS report, is on the agenda. We have very few incidents to report, and that's a credit to the students, the teachers, the staff, and the community. No, I can't provide specifics. I can say we have a safe, supportive educational environment, and that's what's key here. And that's it for me. Robin's going to give her report and a brief transportation update.
Yeah, we've talked so much about finance tonight that I don't have that much to report. I feel like everything that I have to say goes according to our cycles. So we start out in August and September, so we're going to ask you to approve the audit. That we have a bunch of reports that come around in October and November, so you already approved a bunch last meeting. This time around, we are going to ask you to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan and the M1, the district report of transported students, right, which tells us about our district efficiency, and the application for school aid, school state aid, which is where our state aid. So that's kind of comes to the end of our reporting cycle. The one thing I will mention about the comprehensive maintenance plan and the M1 is where they come up with our maintenance budget, and we've been talking about our maintenance. And what the state normally does is you take your square footage and you multiply it by $142 per foot for your maintenance, which they tell me is an absurdly low dollar amount, that's not even close to what you can maintain it for. And so Brian, our auditor, I had heard in a couple of districts that they're asking to use an insurance value, and Brian agreed that for our district that he's allowing us to use a different figure. We're not going to use that state figure. And what that really does is it's saying for the savings account for your maintenance, they put a cap on it. It can be 4% of that value. Well, what Brian has allowed us to do now is say a 4% of a much higher value. It's allowing us to put almost $1 million more, not that we have it, but to increase the amount that we could put into that maintenance account. So that's a really, really nice thing for our district. Because we do want to put money away. We don't want to be under budgeted on maintenance. And so that was a nice thing. I wanted to mention that about the maintenance plan. And so then the third thing that we're asking you to approve is that it's now budget season. So you've got the budget calendar, and we will, once you approve that, we will put that up on the site, and we'll be trying as hard as we can to hit those target dates so that we can get our budget approved and again have a really nice, even budget that does not spike us in future years, which is really what we want. Other than that, for transportation update, I'm happy to report that I am hearing some positive comments now from families saying they like their bus driver, that he really seems to like the kids, the buses are in better condition. Things that way seem to be going in a much more positive direction. We did meet with the bus company, and I have to say I had a long talk with them again today. We met with them last week. The problem now seems to be more sub-bus drivers, and they're working on it. They don't have a real great answer for us, but they're working on it. They know that we are upset about it, and that it's still not acceptable when you have a sub. And so that now is the next hurdle. And we're trying to get over that hurdle, and we keep telling him, it's November. We should be there. He's telling us, they're doing their best. There is a shortage of bus drivers, and they don't have sub-drivers, just readily available. But we're talking, and we just keep talking and keep forcing, pushing the issue. And so I apologize to all the families that have been inconvenienced now because of sub-drivers, and know that, we're doing our best. It's just a hard nut to crack. We don't have all the answers. And we hired the bus company because we don't do transportation. We thought we hired professionals. We don't do roofing either, right? We hire roofers. And so we're just kind of, doing our best.
Could you mention about the Pritchard contract and
Oh,
the vehicle?
yeah. So the vehicles are two of our trucks, or several of our trucks are really getting old. They're rusting out. So we know that in the near future, we are going to need to purchase some vehicles, and we'll get some nice vehicles. So one of the things that our Pritchard contract has is $100,000 for equipment. So what we're trying to do is use our maintenance budget, right, and our equipment lines
to buy things like vacuum cleaners and things that are not big, holding that $100,000 so that with any luck, we can use it for vehicles and have Pritchett reimburse us for that. So we're thinking to use it for a big thing as opposed to a lot of little things. Let's use the regular budget for little things and budget wisely and save some of the money for a vehicle or two.
That's great. Okay, other questions? Danielle?
I didn't have a question. It was more of a comment for Mr. Alexis. When this opportunity with Hudson Immersion just sounds wonderful. So I think I think that's a great way to get involved and kind of share the resources amongst other partners in our community. But I joke and I half joke. Maybe they can. Maybe they have a fencing coach or something. We could kind of share.
We already checked, I don't know.
No, but that sounds really wonderful.
Can we get a space heater for in here? On our
You're lucky it's not really blowing like it does.
Yeah.
It's like
Bad.
up and down.
Okay, anything else? Okay, any comments from the public on agenda items? Okay, all right, let's move to resolutions. Karen, will you move in number 1, the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Who just said second?
I did.
Okay.
Roll call?
Okay, Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Mrs. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Okay, Danielle, will you move in financials numbers 2 through 19?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? There should not be any questions after all that reporting. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. You could ask a question, but you know what I mean. Okay. Special services, items numbers 20 through 23. Crystal, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Mrs. Nyquist?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Anne, will you move in personnel numbers 24 through 36?
So moved.
Second.
Danielle?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
It
Who
was
said that?
Danielle.
Danielle.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Case?
Yes. Alex, we move in curriculum number 37.
Second.
The easiest
Third.
one. Okay, questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Tom, will you move in policy numbers 38 through 42?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Katie, will you move in other items number 43 through 50?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Dr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Ms. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Case?
Yes. Okay, great. Any items for discussion, any unfinished business?
Excuse me, I don't really have an item for discussion, but I wanted to just make a statement. I had an opportunity to volunteer at the Halloween parade, and I had the refreshment table. And there were varied between 3 and 4 students from the community service group at Central School helped out, and they were wonderful. They, the little kids, they were very good with the kids. They would do anything you asked. They showed initiative. It was pleasant working with them, so
That's great.
I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Any other items? No? Okay, any comments from the public on anything? No.
And you're dead.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Enjoy your break this week, and